Hi, my name is Dr. Ruth Burkhart. I'm the Director of Nursing at Ottawa University, a private, not-for-profit university with fully online programs and campuses in Wisconsin, Kansas, and Arizona. And I'm coming to you today from the Overland Park, Kansas campus, and I welcome you to the Stress, Distress, or De-Stress workshop. I will be the presenter for this workshop. We have 3 planned for this year, offered to you by Ottawa University free of charge with CNEs. This is the first one, and I am the Director of Nursing. Currently, we offer the online, fully online, accelerated RN to BSN and the Master of Science in Nursing in nurse education or nurse leadership, should you be interested in what we have to offer. But I want to give you a little bit about me as your presenter as we get started. I am both a registered nurse, I am board certified as a psychiatric mental health nurse, and I'm a licensed professional clinical counselor. For many years, I have offered workshops in stress and anxiety reduction. I'm very concerned about what is going on in our nurse world in light of the stresses of the COVID pandemic and ongoing stress associated with our jobs. I know that using techniques from the cognitive and behavioral therapy fields can be very helpful for nurses in managing their stress. We have to look at both areas. What happens to our cognitive state when we get overly stressed and our bodies cannot manage it and our coping skills are not adequate to manage either the level of stress or the high number of concurrent stresses. So we look at what happens with the thought process, and then the effect on the feeling state, and then the effect on the body. And I'll be talking a little bit about that as we go through this. When it comes to our thought process, when we are under stress, we have what is called thinking under stress. And it is easy at that point to jump to conclusions and to misperceive. We can have unrealistic expectations and false beliefs about ourselves and others that arises from thinking under stress in childhood or earlier in life, or coming out of a work environment that was hostile or not supportive. Cognitive therapy tools in stress management teach a person how to evaluate their assumptions, their automatic thoughts and beliefs, and their expectations as well as their perceptions, and then challenge and reframe those perceptions and the thoughts about them, and then assess, do I feel differently about that? But in addition to the cognitive therapy tools that I'll be talking about today, I will also be offering you some what I call body work techniques, such as relaxation breathing, tense relaxed muscle technique, and even the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding technique. Because we need all those things to help us as we carry out our nursing duties and manage our multiple relationships and responsibilities. We also will be talking about how you can reimagine and role play. There are some, I would say, some really helpful techniques that come out of the behavioral therapy field to help nurses manage their stress and anxiety. And I hope to be able to pair those together today and present to you in an organized fashion with PowerPoint slides some helpful tools and resources here. If you'll look now at slide number 2, this is our disclosure statement. Stress, distress, or de-stress, activity date 6/1/2021. And here's the disclosure action. This activity has been submitted to the Arizona Nurses Association for approval to award contact hours. The Arizona Nurses Association is accredited as an approver of nursing continuing professional development by the American Nurses Credentialing Center's Commission on Accreditation. Participants must complete a post-test at 80% or greater and an evaluation of the event. This educational activity does not include any content that relates to the products and or services of a commercial interest that would create a conflict of interest. There is no commercial support being received for this event. The origination date is 6/1/2021. The expiration date is 6/1/2023. And then at the bottom of the slide, it says, participants, please note that it should take approximately 160 minutes, 2.67 hours to complete the continuing education offering. Do you ever get on Facebook or the internet and see that there are a lot of nurse memes these days? Well, I'm going to show you 3 of them. They're very funny if you're a nurse. I'm not sure if they would be to anybody else. The first one is on slide 3, Is This Your World? On the top of the slide, it has registered nurse, and there are 6 different scenes there. What my friends think I do, interesting. What the hospital thinks I do, what Hollywood thinks I do, what society thinks I do, what I think I do, and you can see how accelerated that is. But what I really do, paperwork, right. Okay. Yes, funny, but true. All right, and then slide 4, or this. Is this your world? Do we ever feel like this? Hopefully we don't look quite like this, but we might feel like this. It says, I'm a little stressed right now. Just turn around and leave quietly and no one gets hurt. Or slide 5. Oh my. Showering won't be enough today. I'll need to be autoclaved. So how are you doing today? How's your stress level? And let's think for a moment, how do you manage your stress? I have been a nurse for many years. I've been a nursing administrator. And as you can imagine, I have worked with nurses that are not managing their stress at a given moment very effectively. Well, what happens? How is that working for you? How you are managing it right now? Are you finding that you have effective and healthy ways to reduce the stress that is affecting nurses, particularly right now, or even your ongoing stresses involved with managing a career and the other responsibilities in your life? Life is stressful. Life for a nurse can be particularly stressful. When you think back on your life, and even your life as a nurse, what has worked better for you than you might be using now to manage your stress? Maybe you would say, I have more stress now. That would be understandable. It might be time to look at some different ways to manage your stress than you have been using. And why should this matter? I think we as nurses know it's because stress can kill us. And if it doesn't kill us in our physical state, like gone, no more, stress can affect our relationships. It can surely affect our work life and our quality of life. So Managing our stress is a very important topic right now, especially for all nurses. And during this presentation, I'm going to be reviewing some very helpful stress management techniques that we have talked about with the thought processes and the body work that we will do, as well as resources from the American Nurses Association website. As we look at the effect of stress on nurses, we need to make a distinction between what we would quote unquote call normal stress versus distress. And this can be difficult for nurses to distinguish because the inherent nature of our role can create a lot of stress for us within a given day. Our role is like a hub of a wheel, and all the spokes that are there coming out from the hub are the people that we interact with, that we report to, that report to us, that we have to communicate with and even help throughout a day. And as nurses, we like to schedule out our day and have it all organized, and we're not very happy if it gets interrupted. So right off the bat, because we want to get our work done, we have a setup for being highly frustrated, even irritated, and that can create stress. So the question again is, what is normal stress versus distress? Well, let's focus on our thought processes. I have often talked about the runaway mind of the nurse. As I said, we want to get our work done. We have a list in our mind, maybe even on paper, of all the tasks that we want to get accomplished, and we feel really good when we can start checking those off, either in our mind or on paper. Can you think of the possibilities of our runaway mind? We are already halfway through our shift in our mind, and we're looking at, oh no, I've got 6 hours left. Look how much more I have. It doesn't give us a good feeling. That in itself, because we are both task-oriented, but also in the moment, in the here and now, managing people, and all the things going on, and that in itself can create possibilities for our mind to run away. And there are so many opportunities within any given day, as working as a nurse, to misperceive what is going on. With all that's on our plate and all the people situations and people differences that we manage, we can get it wrong a lot. We can misperceive, or we can respond in a way that upsets another person, and we don't realize that we're doing it because, you know what, we just want to get our work done. So we need to be able to slow that down, and that's part of what we're going to talk about today. What really concerns me, besides the effect on the work environment, is what's going on the deeper level with relationships among nurses and between nurses and supervisors, between nurses, maybe even relationships that are outside of the workplace. Because when we misperceive, or we get a hurt, or we get a mad going on, it can build up a barrier with the very people that could offer support to us. Support in the way of even a kind word or a smile, but we will have nothing to do with it if we have been wounded, we have felt disrespected, we have felt overlooked. And that is why it is so important that we manage our stress in the moments. We could even come home and take it out on family members. Have you ever done that? We're just done in after a shift. So we need to manage our thoughts, our emotions, what's going on in our bodies while we're actually in the workplace. And I will just tell you a funny story of when I worked in a very busy, chaotic hospital unit, and there was a bathroom just off the unit, and when it got too high stimuli, I would take a quick break, which is rare in nursing, I will tell you. But I had to go and I had to calm and ground myself because I knew I could not be as effective as I needed to be with what was going on. Of course, I didn't do it in the middle of an emergency or when I was urgently needed, but that is how high our stimuli and stress level can be, depending on the position we have with our unique role. So stress can affect us in many, many ways that are not positive, but we can manage it, and we can make it work for us. Anxiety is normal. It's a normal part of our being state. It's when it gets too high that it can cause problems. When it gets too high, we can't think beyond the here and the now, the very concrete. And as nurses, we need to be able to pull in information from past lived experiences as a nurse, information about our skill set. We have to be able to draw from that. When that gets too high, we can't. We actually need just the right amount of anxiety to be able to do that. I will just say, stress then does not equal distress. We want to keep it in the, I don't know if I can use the word normal stress, but we want to keep it in the stress that doesn't kill us, the stress that doesn't harm us or cause us to lash out or to internalize and do damage to our body. That is actually distress. So we want to keep it on the side of stress and not distress, and we can do that by de-stressing. Therefore, the name of our workshop, Stress, Distress, or De-stress. So now I want to talk with you about some specific resources that we can use as nurses to de-stress. And I want to start with slide 8. And this is the American Nurses Association Wellbeing Initiative. Many people don't realize that the American Nurses Association has some fantastic resources for a number of issues that face nursing, and it also includes managing stress. So we're going to go to the website, and we are going to look at these 4 resources that are available to us within our own American Nurses Association website for stress management, called the Wellbeing Initiative. If you go to slide 8, and it says the Wellbeing Initiative, ANA, American Nurses Association, and what is this Wellbeing Initiative? So look there, and it has a website. Highlight that with me, and right-click where it says Open Hyperlink, and go ahead and open that. And you will come to the homepage there for the Wellbeing Initiative. It says Welcome Nurses, free tools and apps to support mental health and resilience. And over there on the left, it says Available Resources, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 1 is Mood Fit. Number 2, Happy App. Number 3, A Nursing State of Mind podcast series. And number 4, Healthy Nurse, Healthy Nation. So let's go scroll back up and go over there where it says 1, Mood Fit, and click on that. And that takes you to this page where you can take advantage of the offer to download Mood Fit. Mood Fit will help you with a mood journal, a gratitude journal, mindfulness meditation, breathing exercises, CBT, which is Cognitive Behavioral Therapy Thought Record, reminders with key messages and articles, and tips. So I highly recommend that you take advantage of this. And then if you will go back to that page that had the 1, 2, 3, 4 there on the left, the Happy app. So let's click on that and see what you get. And it says Happy is proud to partner with the American Nurses Association to support nursing professionals as part of the Well-Being Initiative. And there is a download Happy. And you can click on that, and it says, Welcome to Happy. You will receive a one-time text message to download the app, and then you just click on Send Me the app. And once again, I highly recommend that you take advantage of these resources. For some people, this will actually be very, very helpful. And it says here on that page, as a nurse, you know empathy, listening, and connecting make all the difference. You know nurses need the same support, and especially during this pandemic. And it gives you some additional resources there. And then if you will go back to number 3, a Nursing State of Mind podcast series. And you have a Nursing State of Mind Impulse Control. It is offered by the American Association of Perioperative Registered Nurses, and the date on that is January 13, 2021. That podcast is 7 minutes and 18 seconds. The second one is a Nursing State of Mind, Maintaining Positive Relationships with Family and Friends, and that is 8 minutes and 4 seconds. The third one is a Nursing State of Mind, Getting the Rest You Need, and that one is 9 minutes and 20 seconds. And the last one is a Nursing State of Mind, Supporting Your Peers, and that one is 7 minutes and 29 seconds. And then you can subscribe to Apple Podcasts or listen to it on Google Play Music. So I want you to know these are amazing podcasts. I won't take time to go into them today, but they are there for you. This is our American Nurses Association. And then the last one is the number 4, Healthy Nurse, Healthy Nation. And I am sure that you are familiar with this one, as I am, as we have been in this initiative now for many years. In case you haven't, the Healthy Nurse, Healthy Nation Grand Challenge, I'm just going to read this quickly to you. If all 4 million registered nurses increased their personal wellness and then their families, coworkers and patients followed suit, what a healthier nation we would live in. That is the goal of the Healthy Nurse, Healthy Nation Grand Challenge, an initiative to connect and engage nurses, employers, and organizations around improving health in 5 key areas: physical activity, nutrition, rest, quality of life, and safety. Shockingly, but this is true, it says nurses are less healthy than the average American. Research shows that nurses are more likely to be overweight, have higher levels of stress, and get less sleep. And yet we're healthcare providers. And then it continues, as the largest and most trusted healthcare profession, nurses are critical to the health of the nation. Healthy nurses are great role models for their patients, colleagues, families, and neighbors. And it will tell you that if you scroll down how it works, you can register to join Healthy Nurse, Healthy Nation Connect, take the health assessment survey and get a heat map of your health risks, pick your focus areas and make a commitment to your health, and participate in the health challenges. And it shows you activity, rest, nutrition, quality of life, and safety, because these are the areas that nurses need help, and we need support in those. You can also connect with others for support, advice, and share your successes. And you can actually repeat this survey annually. And there's a button there at the bottom for you to join the challenge. And if you click on that, you get the page that says Healthy Nurse, Healthy Nation Grand Challenge. How exciting that we have resources to help us become healthier people. And then if you'll go back to the home page for the Well-Being Initiative, and you go past those 1, 2, 3, 4, about mid-page, on the left it has hotlines, National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 1-800-273-TALK, which is 1-800-273-8255. The Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Association, SAMHSA National Helpline for help with substance abuse, and that's 1-800-662-HELP or 4357. And then the SAMHSA, which is the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Association, a federal agency disaster distress helpline, and that is 1-800-985-5990, and those numbers are right on this homepage here. And then over to the right is Well-Being Tools and Resources. And there is a 24 in a circle, and it says looking for a safe space to talk, confidential calls that connect you with compassion and where you can talk openly about your self-care and your wellness. The Happy app, looking for help processing your thoughts. You can sign up to participate in narrative expressive writing. There are links for all of these. Looking for resources to help you improve self-care and sleep, the Mood Fit. And there again, if you didn't do it up there at the top, you can click in there to give you you can also get a guide to sleeping better and restoring energy and boosting your energy and your relaxation. Looking for help, but not sure where to start. And here's another stress self-assessment that we can take. And there are 10 quick questions. Here's another website that we can get into for to evaluate our stresses. So there are this goes all the way down to the bottom of the page. And I will have to tell you, it has amazed me in my career that most nurses do not take advantage of the resources available online with the American Nurses Association. And I pray and hope that you'll make this count. We nurses are stressed. This is a difficult time for us. And these resources are here for you to use to get a handle on your stress and to help you manage your stress and also all the other states of your body and mind through the Well-Being Initiative. I do hope that you will use it. Looking at slide 9, it is titled The Mind and Stress. And the first thing we're going to do is take you to a website where you can do a stress distress inventory. And I had just talked with you about the well-being initiative with the American Nurses Association, and you can actually do a stress inventory there as well. It's got 10 questions, but it is kind of buried down within a page, and I wanted to give you something that you could just go straight to that. So this is from the Be Mindful Online, and it is part of a course that you can sign up yourself and pay for and take, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to do the open the website and do the inventory. So once again, if you'll highlight it and then right-click and click on Open Hyperlink of the PowerPoint slide, and it is the Be Mindful at the top of the page. Test your stress. It says, understanding your current level of stress is the first step in taking control. And if you go down, the screen says, complete this simple stress test to measure the stress in your life. It uses the Perceived Stress Scale, which is the PSS. And we will scroll down. It says, get your stress score. And hopefully it won't be high, but it could be. And if it is, then that is what we start with. Okay, so click on Get Your Stress Score. And I am, just for the sake of being able to move ahead with you, I'm going to click on Sometimes here and then advance through these 10 questions. But let's stop and take a pause here and focus. And the first question is, in the last month, and that is key, in the last month, how often have you been upset because of something that happened unexpectedly? Is it never, almost never, sometimes, fairly often, or very often? So click what best captures what has happened with you in terms of something unexpectedly happening over the past month. When you get that clicked, then move to next. And step 2 of 10 is what you have on this second screen here. In the last month, how often have you felt that you were unable to control important things in your life? Is it never, almost never, sometimes, fairly often, or very often? Click on that and then click on Next. Step 3 of 10 is your third screen there. In the last month, how often have you felt nervous and stressed? Never, almost never, sometimes, fairly often, or very often. So click on the one that best reflects how often you have felt nervous and stressed in the last month. And then click on Next. Now we've advanced to screen 4. And it reads, in the last month, how often have you felt confident about your ability to handle your personal problems? And is that never, almost never, sometimes, fairly often, or very often? So this is your ability to handle your personal problems by your own perception, and only over the last month. When you have clicked on that, click on the Next tab there, and we are now on screen 5 of 10. In the last month, how often have you felt that things were going your way? Is that never, almost never, sometimes, fairly often, or very often, over the last month by your perception, things going your way? Click on what fits you best and then click on Next. And now we are on step 10. This is screen 10 of, or screen 6 of 10. In the last month, how often have you found that you could not cope with all the things you had to do? Never, almost never, sometimes fairly often, or very often. So click on what fits you best, not coping with all the things you had to do by your estimation, and then click on Next. And we are now on step 7 or screen 7 of 10. In the last month, how often have you been able to control irritations in your life? Never, almost never, sometimes, fairly often, or very often. So you click on what fits you best for within the last month by your perception. Have you been able to control irritations in your life? We are now on step 8 of 10. In the last month, how often have you felt that you were on top of things? Never, almost never, sometimes, fairly often, very often. So click on what fits. Last month, your perception of how on top of things you felt. Next is step 9 of 10. In the last month, how often have you been angered because of things that happened that were out of your control? Is that never, almost never, sometimes, fairly often, or very often? So in the last month, how often have you felt angered by a perception that things were out of your control? So click on what fits that best and click on Next. And in the last month, how often have you felt difficulties were piling up so high that you could not overcome them? Is that never, almost never, sometimes, fairly often, or very often? So click on what fits you best. For in the last month, your perception was that your difficulties were piling up so high you could not overcome them. Then you click on Next, and because that was 10 of 10, now you're going to get your stress score from 0 to 40. So where are you at? And again, this is using the perceived stress scale. And then it says what's next. And of course, there again, if you want, you could sign up for this Be Mindful course. So I'm giving you another resource here. If you signed up for the course, they're saying that it would reduce your stress. But I'm giving you multiple resources today to choose from to help you manage your stress, and this is one of them. As I've said, our minds are powerful tools to create, to reimagine, to help us sort out those things that are stressing us and causing us to distress. And now we want to use our minds to de-stress instead of distress. So I want to take you through an exercise and demonstrate to you, hopefully, how cognitive therapy can help you de-stress. And as you know from looking at the American Nurses Association Well-Being Initiative website, that it also has a link for a cognitive exercise. So we use this in many different disciplines to help us interpret correctly or reinterpret things that happen so that we are not unnecessarily stressed by a distorted perception, such as jumping to conclusions, generalizing, seeing only the negative, those kinds of things, or having unrealistic expectations or beliefs about ourselves and others. So this exercise involves you being invited to a party, a gathering with friends. Some of them you know, but there'll be a lot of new people there as well. And it's fairly large. You were told there would probably maybe be as many as 45 to 50 people there. And you have been really looking forward to this. In fact, you have planned for it for 2 weeks because it is so exciting to think about. I'm not at work. We now have the capacity to be at a gathering. Hopefully you live in a state where that's possible. And if not, that many people, then think of the number of people that are allowed if you are any kind of gathering restrictions by public health mandates. But in any event, you've been really looking forward to this. And you get there and you realize, oh no, I had the wrong time. And people are already talking to each other in different areas. They're all with other people. And you walk in and nobody seems to notice. And you are just hugely let down already. You can feel that disappointment. And then you have the decision to make, okay, do I go for the food and the drinks first? Should I look for my friend? Oh, there's my friend over there. She's already talking to somebody else. I hate to interrupt that person. Or over there he is, but hey, he's busy too. What do we do, right? That's tough. And then the thought hits you, I shouldn't be here. This is not where, I know I looked forward to it, but I just shouldn't even be here. Nobody is even noticing me. They don't care. They don't know what a big deal this was for me. And that is your perception. And so you end up leaving. You grab a drink and some snacks and off you go. And you go home and you feel so horribly let down. But it's more than that, because your perception is, I guess my friends don't really care about me. And now I want you to think with me, is this what really happened? Were some facts left out because of thinking under stress, which can lead to those cognitive distortions, as we call them, jumping to conclusions, seeing only the negative, generalizing, those kinds of things. We have to rethink it. So the way you rethink it can also be put on paper. In cognitive therapy, we use the triple column technique. You identify what happened, you reframe it or reword it to capture all the details that thinking under stress may not allow you to be perceiving or thinking at the time it happened. You identify any potential cognitive distortion involved with it. You think about how that made you feel. When you rework it and reframe it with all the details and maybe reimagine or put a different perception on it, then you evaluate, well, how did that make me feel? So let's think about this. Have you ever been in a situation like that where you felt like, I'm a third wheel, I don't fit in? Or maybe my friends don't really care about me, or my colleagues. It might be a work party. There's just so many opportunities for misperceptions to happen. If indeed you did feel left out of something you were so looking forward to, how would that make you feel? You need to reevaluate that on a scale of 1 to 10. How bad, how distressed, how disrespected, how let down did it make you feel, with 1 being the lowest and 10 being the highest? You think about, am I jumping to conclusions? Am I seeing only the negative? Am I generalizing? We even have a category of cognitive distortion called emotional reasoning. We actually do decision making based on an emotion that is not what it needs to be. It's not accurate. Remember, our goal is to stay in the here and the now, to either challenge ourselves with our perception, or at least evaluate it. Is that entirely accurate? And then to remember that thinking under stress does not allow us to capture important details, such as in this case, well, I was late. People naturally will group themselves from a larger group into smaller groups because they're like me. At a large gathering, we don't want to stand there alone, and we certainly don't want to go to the drink and snack table and eat and drink alone when it was supposed to be a social gathering right? So identify the cognitive distortion that could be possible. And we want to reframe what happened. Well, we write the facts down. What happened was, I got the time mixed up at the party. Nobody probably intended to give me the wrong time, or I wrote it down wrong. I was late. People were in their little groups talking because that's what made them feel the most comfortable. This is it, and you could tell yourself, this is entirely possible. It has nothing to do with me personally. And I will tell you that getting out of personalizing the perception of events is really key to rethinking, reevaluating, and coming to a proper frame or reframe of the situation. So, but then you need to include what happened in the reframe. Well, I thought that maybe someone gave me the wrong time, and it hurt me so badly, and I was so disappointed. I came home and I cried, or whatever the case may be, or I decided, well, I'm not going to any more of their parties. I guess we weren't as close as I thought we were. I guess they'll never be there for me when I need them now, which is generalizing, right? Okay, so we want to put all that in. We want to put that that's what we thought, but now you can see what really happened. And you want to write that out. And then you go back and you say, do I feel any differently? Does that change my perception? Does that change what I will do in relation to further parties with these group of friends or with that one friend? Do you see how our perception, our misperception of things that happen to us, even from something as minor as this to a work situation, even involving a supervisor or a provider, or all those things, a colleague, when we're all stressed and super busy, can you see the possibilities here? So this is how using this simple technique can help us de-stress in addition to what we've talked about. I want you now to come up with your own example. It could be the one that you recalled twice now as we've gone through this workshop. Something that happened that was distressing. Write it down on a piece of paper as you recall it. It is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You recall it, you write it down. I'm going to give you a little bit of time to do that. And just for the sake of time, for those of you that already wrote it down, I want you to think now about that event and how you perceived it, because what you wrote down was your perception. Take a couple of moments and either recall that by what you were thinking about or what you wrote down, and ask yourself, is that entirely accurate? Is that what really happened if I think about all the factors involved? Because remember, thinking under stress, we leave out important details. So what do you think? Is there a possibility that your mind, because you were under stress, left out some details? Are you generalizing, jumping to conclusions, seeing only the negative, emotional reasoning, or any of the other ways that we distort things? Sometimes it's a false expectation. It's just unrealistic, and we need to square that away with what reality is. But we need to be sure, because we can overly stress and distress ourselves with that thought as well. It may be helpful to talk with someone about that. Now, is there a way you can reframe it by putting in details that may change the perspective, may change your perception? I want you to do that, either in your thought process or on paper. I want you to include some details that you may not have noticed because you jumped from perception to a feeling state that was not positive. Okay, are you doing that? If you have, I want you to think about how you feel now. On a scale of 1 to 10, how distressing is that reframe? That's what we call it in cognitive therapy. We call it a reframe. Is it as distressing for you? That's the important thing, is that you are the expert on you, and that you sort through that. And it may take some time, and that's all right. Sometimes our thought processes want to kind of chew on things, if I could use that phrase. We want to go over it in our head. We want to go over it in our thoughts. And we want to really think about that. As I said, in nursing, there are just countless opportunities every day, even with our families, to get things wrong, either because of unrealistic expectations or automatic thoughts, or we have misperceived. And I really didn't talk much about automatic thoughts, but you know what? I may want to say something. For those of you that grew up thinking under stress and who hasn't at some point in their early years, it is important that we evaluate our automatic thoughts. An automatic thought might be, I should never fail. No one should ever say something hurtful to me. My car should never break down. I should never get a flat tire. I mean, we do think this way. And we have to challenge those automatic thoughts. Remember Murphy's Law, 10% of the time, something's going to break down. Someone's going to say something that offends us. It's just going to happen. And so we give grace to people and situations. But you know what? Also to ourselves. The toughest battle is us. And coming out of a situation and cutting ourselves some slack and saying, well, yeah, I didn't handle that quite the way I wished I had, but it wasn't terrible. Or maybe I can get a redo. Or if I can't, well, how else can I think about it? I did try. Because this is important. There are countless opportunities during a day for us to disappoint ourselves as well. So this cognitive therapy technique can actually be very helpful with us in being able to let go of our perceived embarrassments, failures, things like that. And I will tell you, that is more difficult if you have been shamed. Shame is different than guilt. If you have been shamed, which has led you to have that introject, that thought and feeling of, I am inferior, or I don't deserve what I have because of the type of person I am, that needs to be dealt with. That's where a therapist can help you. But when those things get triggered, that can really cause problems, and that can happen. It does help us to rework it and acknowledge it and say, wow, I'm really thinking in an all or nothing way, which is thinking under stress. And I need to reel that in, and I need to cut myself some slack. There again, this is where the power of reimagining can come back in, Can I rework that in my mind at all? Just like with a nightmare or something like that. Because oftentimes it wasn't as noticeable by other people as it is to us. But a button got pushed, something from the past. And then it became more than the event it was. It was something that went to the core of our being. We don't want that. That causes more distress, doesn't it? And we want to find ways to de-stress the distress. Now, if you'll go to slide 10, we are going to look at how specifically to de-stress instead of distress using our thoughts, our cognitive, and our body, the behavioral therapy techniques that I will be sharing with you today. The first one I want to go through is a visual imagery exercise. And I want to remind you of how powerful our thoughts can be when it comes to having an effect on our emotions, our feelings, and the level of tension that we feel in our bodies. So I want you to think of something that was very distressing to you. Do you have that in mind now? It may have been a recent event. It may have been something so that you maybe felt disrespected, or you felt offended, you felt wounded, you felt hurt, but it was a distressing event. Okay, now that you've thought about that, how are you feeling? As you recalled that, did you feel anything in your body? I may not have given you enough time to do that, but our bodies and our minds, our thoughts, have a very powerful connection. So in order to help decrease that stress that we feel in our bodies, where we have all that angst, as I call it, we have the tight muscles in the neck, our hands are clammy, we feel very tense. We can use our minds, our thoughts, to create a different experience, just in our thoughts. I want you to think now of a place that you have been where you have felt calm, safe, secure, at peace, and maybe even happy. Were you on a holiday? Were you at the ocean? Were you hiking in the mountains? Who were you with? What was the setting? I want you to think about that. When you think about that in your mind, how does that make you feel? Did you have a pleasant mood? Did you feel a little more relaxed? Well, that is the key behind visual imagery. And you can purchase online a service to help you with some of those exercises. You may still find a CD. I don't know, some places still carry that with this kind of a scenario. But I'm going to help you create one without the benefit of going through someone else's. I want you to think about that place where you are at. Do you have that in mind? Now I want you to calm yourself for a few seconds here. What are your hands doing? Where are your shoulders placed? Are you looking down? Are your eyes closed? Are your feet on the floor? Are you sitting in a chair? Where are you in your thoughts with this setting? And who is with you? How are you feeling? Just relish in that moment of where you are at a place where you feel calm, secure, safe. A setting that means something special to you, that brings those feelings up. Is there anything in that setting that you would like to recall and let go of? What comes up? Is there anything distressing you? What is it? I want you to identify that. And then I want you to use your mind to imagine that you're holding your arms out in front of you, you're extending them, and that person, place, or thing or situation is resting on your hands. You have control. It is outside of you, not in your thoughts, not in your body weighing you down. You are holding it with your extended arms and hands, palms up. And you are able to look at it and you face it fair and square. What would you like to say to it? Whatever it may be, a person, place, thing, or situation. Maybe it's something like, how dare you? How dare you? Or maybe it's something like, do you have any idea how much that hurt me? I don't think you can possibly understand. Or maybe it's, you want to say something like, that is so unfair. I can't believe that that happened. Or maybe it's just a deep sense of dissatisfaction with where your life is right now. Can you hold that in your hands, palms up, looking at it, and say to it what's in your heart? That's the important part. What comes to you in this moment to say to it? Person, place, thing, or situation. Well, now that you've done that, I want you to take a deep breath, and then I want you to turn your hands over so that now the top of your hands are where you can see them. What has happened to that distressing person, place, thing, or situation? Can you see where it is? No, you cannot. It is now not visible to you. This kind of an exercise can be very, very helpful. It's not to solve all of our problems, it's to give us a respite from thinking about it obsessively, or internalizing it, where we won't think about it. We have to get it outside ourselves. You can even visualize that person, place, thing, or situation actually being carried away by the wind, in the ocean, wherever your setting was that you recalled that pleasant situation, and now you did this exercise. Because we need to get it out. Our minds can be used in very powerful and creative ways. Really, because of our level of ability to think, imagine, and create with our thoughts, we can do amazing things with our minds, with our thoughts, to bring about pleasant feelings and experience. And in fact, a growing in popularity method of helping people recovering from the nightmares of post-traumatic stress disorder or the flashbacks is something called imagery rehearsal therapy, or IRT. This actually was started back, I believe, in the 70s, but it has gained renewed popularity working with veterans with PTSD. So the way it works is if you are having stress-related nightmares that are difficult for you, and please do not do this without a therapist helping you, but you recall your nightmare And then you reimagine something within that nightmare, some part of it, so that when you now think of it, you think of it that someone else is there with you. Or if everything went completely black and dark, suddenly there was a bright light and someone stood by you. So this is how powerful our minds are, that we can use them that way. Now, I would like to do a visual imagery exercise with you that I use, and I find it enormously helpful. And I want you to imagine, if you would, that you are hiking in the mountains with me. But we are not aware of each other. So you are hiking in the mountains and you desperately are seeking some time alone, just some peace, some restoration, and it's hot outside, it's warm, and you need a cool place with some tree canopy. So you pull your car up, you close the door, you walk, and you suddenly find that your feet are crunching pine needles. And as you do that, you become aware overhead are beautiful and forever going, always so many of them that you can't even see the end of them, evergreen trees, pine, spruce, those types of trees. And they are preventing the sun from completely engulfing you because it is a bright sunny day, so the sun's kind of just peeking through those trees in between those spaces of the branches. But you yourself are feeling calm, cool, and the further you walk on those pine needles and you smell that fragrant aroma coming up, the more relaxed you feel. And suddenly you hear a bird, and then another bird, and then you feel that sunshine coming through those branches and giving you just enough warmth and light that it's comfortable and pleasant. And then you decide, I have walked quite a ways. I think I'm going to sit down. And so you find a bit of a clearing, and you sit down and you lean up against a tree. And there again, you are so close to the pine needles and that fragrant aroma, which is pleasant to you. And now you begin to unwind. And so now as you sit there quietly, you do begin to think of things that are weighing you down. It might be a relationship that has had some conflict, or maybe just a crushing workload. The load is so heavy, and every day you get up and you just push yourself to get things done, and you come off of work and you have things to do at home. It may be children, it may be housework, which I think should maybe be a 4-letter word, but it's not. And all this responsibility, and at times we just need to get away, and that's what you're doing. You're taking a vacation in your mind, and you're thinking about where you're at, but as you rest and relax in your mind, suddenly intrusive thoughts come, and they will. And then you have a choice. What would you like to do with those thoughts and those cares and maybe even worries that are coming to your mind? What will you do with them? Because this is your time to rest your mind, rest your body. You need that desperately. So are you going to say, no, you can't intrude on my peace? How will you do that? Do you have a way to dismiss intrusive thoughts? Because there will be a time and a place to do that. Sometimes they're so heavy that we have to carry a pad and paper and write them down. It's a deadline here, something coming up, and that's okay. But then you go back, and then you think, about, no, I'm back in my space again, where I'm relaxing, where it's quiet. That is okay. Let yourself have that time to write it down. Some people do a worry jar. They write their worries down, and when they get back to their home, they tear them off one by one in little strips of paper, put them in a jar, and then once a day at a certain time, that's all they can do is worry about those. And it's a way to interrupt our thoughts with all those worries. But whatever your method is, you need to come back to your imagined situation of rest, because you do need that periodically. And while you're in that peaceful place, that is a time to determine how I'm going to deal with intrusive thoughts that come to me. And then keep repeating that, and it will become a habit, and you will have the capacity to discipline your thoughts in that way so that you can take care of intrusive thoughts and take that mental vacation when you need it. Then you need to decide, while you're in that calm and quiet place, what do I need? Maybe I just need a hug. Maybe I need to call a friend. Maybe I need to get a handle on some emotion I'm struggling with. It can actually be a productive time as a result of taking time to quiet your mind and a little mental vacation, as I call it. When you have left or ready to leave that quiet place, I want you to make a commitment that you'll return there periodically. It is part of our stress management exercises. One thing we didn't talk about, and we need to at this point, is we want to talk about situational awareness and feeling powerless. Situational awareness is a term we use a lot in nursing because it can be associated with safety, which, as you know, is a predominant issue to be concerned with. We kill people as nurses, unfortunately. And sometimes it's no fault of our own. Or we may think we have, but we really haven't. But we have that capacity. We literally have people's lives in our hands in some of the positions that we hold. I know I have, and I know maybe even the majority of you either have had or currently have. So safety is huge. Situational awareness is a learned skill, and it begins with thinking of things in the here and the now. In the here and the now, what am I aware of? Because as I said, us nurses are, or we nurses might be better English, are very focused on tasks. We want to get our workload done. We'd be happy if we could race through a day and just do our tasks and not have to deal with anything else. And in fact, I have had nurses say to me, I love being a nurse if I didn't have to deal with people. Well, that is amusing, but it is true that we have constant interruptions. We have difficult people that we have to work with. And we have got to stay in the here and the now, in the midst of everything that is on our minds. And that is for our own safety and the safety of those we care for if we hold those kinds of positions. You may be in leadership or management. You may be in nursing education. In any event, this is a very good skill. So, in the here and the now, we are aware of verbal and nonverbal. We are aware of dynamics and things going on. That is situational awareness. And we make a commitment to be very open and flexible and movable in terms of our response. So we are going to not react, we are going to act. There is a very big difference because we are busy, we're irritated, we're frustrated, trying to get our work done. And many times we are not in the here and the now. And therefore, we react. And when we react, it may or may not be safe, and it may or may not offend other people and put a wall up between us and them. And we work in teams a lot as nurses. So situational awareness is also being talked about as a way to manage our emotions and ourselves in the workplace, which is a huge part of stress management. And it goes back to what is our perception of ourself in our role and our level of power. Nurses talk a lot about power, and many of them perceive that they have none. It's a very black and white, all or nothing statement, but nonetheless, I have heard that a lot in my career as a nurse, working with direct patient care, as a manager and former healthcare administrator, and as a nurse educator, both in the didactic classroom or in the clinical setting. So, what is your perception of how much power you have? I would counter the argument that we do not have power by taking us outside of the hierarchy of our position. And I would look at power from the viewpoint of influence. To me, power is influence and persuasion. How much power do I perceive I have to influence and persuade? Maybe you want to persuade a physician or nurse practitioner to provide some sort of a remedy to a patient's request or suffering. That is power because you have the capacity to influence. And I know you have probably studied that through things like SBAR, communication technique, situation, background, assessment, and response. But we want to take it a step further because I am bringing in our emotions that are tied in with the skills that we use for power, influence, and advocacy. So we have to get the power thing straight in order to really manage our stress. So I am offering the possibility that maybe our view of power within nursing is related more to a position within the hierarchy than looking at it more broadly as the capacity, therefore the power to influence and persuade any given number of people in any given number of roles in relation to hours during a day. We cannot do that without effective communication skills. And we cannot effectively communicate if we cannot ground ourselves, manage our stress and anxiety, and our emotion. Our world needs us to be healthy right now, and I've taken you through the American Nurses Association Wellbeing Initiative. We have key positions of influence, which means we have key positions of power to help or to hurt. So I do want you to think of that possibility. Maybe we've gotten the whole power definition all wrong. And now I want you to think of what are some things in your life that have created that sense of powerlessness in you? Was it something that someone said? Was it your own frustration with where you're at in your career? You would like to be in a different position. You would like to be in a different level. There are things that happen to us that we perceive them in a way that it creates that feeling of powerlessness. And if you have been bullied, which happens in nursing, that is like a trauma that has happened to you. And getting the powerless button pushed is not only going to have you dealing with whatever is going on in the moment with powerlessness, it's going to bring back that bullying, that trauma that happened. Can you see how important it is that we get the power thing right? That we think about it more broadly, and that we be able to assess accurately what is going on around us. Therefore, situational awareness, redefining possibly our definition of power and how we use our power, either positional or referent power, personal power. For relaxation breathing, it is helpful for some to go to a relaxation music set, whatever method you use to get your music on, or go to Google and Google relaxation music. And you can choose, do you want ocean sounds? Do you want the rain? Do you want nature sounds? Maybe some safari music if it's not real high energy, some soft drums, whatever suits you, because that could actually be very helpful. And some people actually use their music along with a hot bath, candles, aromatherapy, whatever works for you. The important thing we're going to talk about today is finding something that works for you. And that's why I'm giving you so many tools, because finding something that fits you and works for you. So we're setting the stage for our relaxation breathing. We need something that will help us to calm and center. And if you're in a very chaotic work situation or in a difficult home situation, it sometimes helps to even have a way to signal yourself, go into my zone. So what would help signal you? If you're standing up, it might be to take a step back. I've done that before. It works pretty well for me. It might not work for you. Do you need to say a word in your head to yourself? Whatever it may be, some kind of a code word or a body movement, slow it down, go into my zone. If you're at home, you might want to pair it with some of the things I mentioned, with relaxation music of your choosing, a hot bath, aromatherapy, candles, whatever it may be. So once we get that all set, then the actual relaxation breathing. And I will tell you, this comes out of Lamaze, which those of you that remember that from your nursing clinicals or you're an OB, mother-baby nurse, this will be something you're well familiar with. But what we do is we focus and slow down. So that's what we're going to do. And you start with taking some deep breaths in and out. We call these cleansing breaths. And you can do as many as you like. I usually do at least 2. So we want to breathe in through our nose and breathe out through our mouth. So we're just going to do that a couple times. So go with me. You ready? 1, 2, 3. We breathe in and we breathe out, and you push all the air out. You can feel it in your diaphragm. You're pushing the air out. And we're going to do it again. Breathe in. Breathe out. So in through the nose, out through the mouth. You might want to do it more than a couple of times. Because when we're ready, we're going to breathe in through our nose and hold it. Try to hold your breath. See if you can hold it for at least 12 seconds. You can count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. But however long you can hold it, that's fine. And then you want to push all the air out with your diaphragm. You want to feel yourself pushing it out. And then you're ready to take another deep breath. And studies have shown if you can do this for 2 minutes and hold your breath 15 seconds each time, if you can work your way up to that, you will lower your pulse and your blood pressure significantly. So it takes practice, but it is a skill that you can use even in the workplace in the midst of some very hectic and chaotic situations going on, to just calm yourself. So let's work on this together. Are you ready? Okay, so now we're going to take a deep breath in. We're holding it. Are you still with me? And now we're going to breathe out. Push all the air out. Did you push it all out? You ready? We're going to do it again. Breathe in. Are you holding it? You still with me? Okay, now push all the air out. And of course, the more you do this, the better you're going to get at it in terms of holding your breath. And there again, why would we do that? Number one, it's an interruption technique for our harried and sped up thinking and activity, but also it will lower our pulse and our blood pressure. And when we are under stress and it's getting toward the unhealthy level, it's really good to bring down that pulse rate and get that adrenaline calmed down a little bit, get the sympathetic nervous system slowed down a bit, right? We really want to do that. So relaxation breathing is a wonderful tool for busy and stressed nurses, as it is for other people. But I like to pair it for nurses with the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding technique, which again, you can read up on by Googling it. And it is commonly used to help people manage stress, anxiety, and even trauma. So the technique works like this. Once you get things slowed down with breathing, it usually works best, just even a little bit. You want to look for 5 things that I can see. So what are you seeing right now? As you look at your screen, maybe your hands, what's in the room there with you. Do you see 5 things? Can you name them? So that in itself is grounding. We are interrupting our thoughts, interrupting our sped up, stressed state of our body. Then you want to look for 4 things I can touch. So what are you touching right now? Are you touching the keyboard? Are you touching the surface of a desk? Do you have a pen in your hand? Do you have a coffee cup? You can touch that. You can touch your leg. You can touch your hair. 4 things you can touch. And then we move down to 3. So 3 things you can hear. So I'm going to ask you, what are you hearing? And then I'm going to be quiet so that you can hear something other than my voice. Did you hear 3 things? Okay. Well, what's next? Because now we're on 2. What are 2 things you can smell? What do you smell in the room where you are listening to this? So you want to find those 2 things. And then the last one is, what can you taste? That's number 1. So it's the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Number 1, what can I taste? It may be you have gum in your mouth. It may be that you have gum you can put in your mouth. It may be your coffee is nearby, or some other beverage that you have there with you. I'm hoping that access to this will be helpful for you. I'm hoping that out of all the things we've talked about so far, that this can be very helpful. To continue with our using our bodies to de-stress, I want to teach you now the tense, relax muscle technique. And this is one that you're going to need to sit in a chair. I hope that you are at a place where you can do that for a few minutes. I know how busy nurses are, and they might be watching this on your phone in a break room for a few minutes, but I want you to, if you can, this works best, if you can sit in a chair. And you'll need to sit comfortably, legs uncrossed, feet on the floor, with your hands on your thighs, on the top. Are you comfortable? This is a technique that will teach you to tense and then relax the major muscle groups of your body. And unfortunately, in order to do this, I will be making an unusual expression when we are at the head. And I always start with the shoulders. That's where a lot of nurses feel their stress. So I want you to just shake your arms at your side, kind of shake it out, and now sit with them on your thighs. Now I want you to take your shoulders and move them up. So move your shoulders up, hold that for a few seconds, and then relax them. So move them up again. And now relax them. Take a focus now on your face. And I want you to shut your eyes very tightly. So let's do that together. 1, 2, 3, go. And hold that, eyes closed. Now open them and do that again with me. Everything gets done twice. All right. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to grimace. Do you know how to grimace with using your mouth muscles? I'm going to make a very funny facial expression. You ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Do you feel that pull? Okay, we want to do that one again. We tense and relax twice. So we tensed once. Now relax your face. And we are going to do that again. Are you ready? Let's grimace. Everything gets done in a few seconds. Then we relax that. Then we go back to our shoulders. So unless you have a medical condition where you cannot do this, if you've had neck surgery, obviously this is not advised. You ready? So we're going to pull our shoulders up. A few seconds. Let them down. Shake it out a bit. And we're going to do that again. Okay. Oh, and then shake that out. Now we are going to start with our fingers, hands, and arms, and then move from there. So I want you to make a fist tightly, as tight as you can. If you have long fingernails, this is not good. Hopefully you do not. And then you want to relax your fists. Unfist, how's that? So, and then I want you to make a fist again with both hands. And then relax that. It should be pulling in your forearms if you do it correctly. And then leave your hands and arms at your side and shake it out a little bit. And now what we are going to do is we are going to draw up our arms with our fists, and we are going to push or pull our forearms to our chest. So if you don't have a medical condition where that's contraindicated, you can do that with me. And now we're going to relax that, shake it out. And since everything gets tensed and then relaxed twice, we're going to do that again. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Okay. Relax that, shake it out. now we are going to take your arms and we are going to put them across your chest. Are you ready? Here we go, like this. Okay, we've tensed that. Now we're going to relax that and shake it out. And then we're going to do that again. And there again, make sure you don't have medical contraindications to do that. And you can also take your arms back, like I'm doing, and bring them up behind you. Sometimes tense, relax muscle technique includes that. Sometimes it does not. And so now, sitting in your chair, I want you to suck in your gut. Suck it in tightly. Do you feel that? And now relax that. And let's do that again. All right. And then relax that. And now I want you to pull your bottom up in your chair. Just pull that up and tense it. Like you're pulling yourself up, but you're not using the rest of your body to do that. Okay, now relax that. And let's do that again. All right. And I might ask, how are you feeling now? By chance, are you feeling more relaxed? Because that's our whole purpose here. This is a relaxation and stress management body exercise. Now I want you to extend your legs out in front of you. And I want you to pull your toes towards your body. There again, if you don't have a medical contraindication like ankle surgery or knee surgery or something like that. And then I want you to put your legs down and relax. And then I want you to point your toes away from your body. You can feel that if you do that. You can feel that pull. And that's what you want. You are tensing and relaxing those muscles in your legs. And then I want you to do that again. Pull those, put your legs out, and extend your toes away from your feet, which is your toes, and point your toes away from your body. How does that feel? There are some other steps that can be included in the tense, relax muscle technique, but these are the major ones. We are tensing and relaxing the major muscle groups in our body. We are almost to the end of our workshop, our time together today. I hope you have found it very helpful, at least some part of it, with some tools that will be useful for you. We want to look now at how can you build your own de-stress or stress management toolkit. As I said, it will be different for different people. I have known nurses that want to come home and clean because they're geared up. You can't easily relax after some of the work days and nights that we have as nurses. You might want to go out for a ride, get a frappuccino, who knows, right? Take your dog out or your dogs out for a walk and kick the dirt around and scream. Wave your hands in the air. You might want to take a hot bath with aromatherapy or not, and a candle, just for some soothing of your mind and your body. So whatever may work, I want you to now begin to think about the different tools in a toolbox or a toolkit. Some of you may have your own toolkit, and you know that in that toolkit you have a number of tools and they have a different function. What's a wrench for? It tightens and untightens, does it not? There's a hammer. What is a hammer used for? It pounds. It can be constructive because you're putting things together, or it can be destructive if you break something or you hit your thumb. Haven't we all done that a time or two? There are so many different pliers. Oh my. And in our toolkits now we have the little battery charger box in case we get stuck out. You might have something in your trunk of your car to air up a flat tire, either the can spray or a pump or something. You know, always be prepared, right? So the bottom line is a toolbox or a toolkit has multiple tools, and they have different purposes. That is a helpful concept for me when I think of managing stress. Because I am telling you, number one size does not fit all. And number two, there are times I need different tools. I shared with you my funny story about having to leave a unit when it got nuts. I mean, it just got too chaotic. And I think really probably the geography of that unit in a hospital was probably the way it was laid out was probably not really conducive to the operations of it. But I actually had a colleague ask me once, Ruth, are you having some kind of a GI problem? Because I guess I'd gone 2 or 3 times to that little bathroom, but it was because I had to get away. I had to calm. It was an exceptionally difficult day with a lot of admissions. So we don't forget those things, right? But we have to find those things that will help us when we need it. So we might need to escape for a little bit and use our techniques. We might feel like, I need to just go punch a punching bag. I need to go out and kick dirt around. Hopefully you won't do anything destructive. Let's try to cap it and change it, right, before it gets to that point, because it can happen. I had a friend that was so stressed out that she actually drove her car into a wall. Yeah, that can happen, like a rock wall. So we don't want it to get to that. We want to find tools in our toolkit that can help us alleviate that stress before it builds up and we act it out in a way that would not be positive for us or somebody else. And as you know, there is lateral violence in nursing. It is from nurse on nurse. The violence that happens in nursing is not all related to our patients in a cognitively disoriented state or in detox attacking us. It is sometimes with each other. And I will tell you, and you know, that a lot of that is verbal. Dressing down a colleague, right? Spreading bad things about somebody, gaslighting. Okay, we don't want to go there. We want to find an outlet. If it reaches that level of, I just need to pound. Where's my equivalent to a hammer, right? In my stress management toolkit. So we might need that. We might need something else to help us. You know, in a toolkit, there's usually a level, even though, you know, we use computer graphics and things so much that you rarely need a level, but sometimes there is one. Like if you're hanging a picture and you want to make sure that it's level. I mean, there's multiple things. There could even be a ruler or something like that. There's a tape measure. It's whatever you need. And I think the important point here is please be open. Be open to ideas. Be open to you thinking about different ways of managing your stress. Some of these may not work for you, but there might be some that will. So be open to that, and then allow yourself that flexibility. Stay out of the one-size-fits-all mentality. I have had friends that their way of managing the stress is the way everybody should. You ever had a friend like that? They go work out at 4 o'clock every morning or 5 o'clock for an hour. Come home and take a shower and go to work. You know, there are a lot of people that would never work for. And of course, the nurses that do night shift, when they get off work, I don't know that they're ready for an hour of workout. That can be pretty challenging to even think about. So allow yourself the flexibility to be open to new ideas, not using someone else's stress management tools and thinking just because they're saying to you, oh, you need to do this. You know how nurses, we do that with each other. You need to try this, you really do. And then they kind of bug you. And the capacity to be assertive and say, no, that's not gonna work for me, but I have my own ways. And that's all right. Because like I said, we work in teams. And sometimes we get feedback from our fellow nurses, and it may seem a little pushy because that's how we are as nurses sometimes. So we need to be able to say, no, I'm not going to do that. And I hope that you are not misusing alcohol, because that can happen. I have had many nurse friends over the years of my career, I've even supervised some, that have had to go on a diversion program with their board of nursing because of an alcohol problem, or they thought that was coming, and so preemptively and proactively they did get some help. And so then in your toolkit, if that is what is going on or could be the case with you, would you seek help? That is one of the tools then in your stress management toolkit. And as we looked at the ANA Wellbeing Initiative, we could see that there are hotlines there for suicide and substance abuse help. You may have local resources. Check those out. You know, we should probably be aware of them as nurses, at least have some general awareness, because we may need that in our line of work. Sometimes we do end up having to refer people or talk to them about those kinds of things. So that's not a bad idea. But for ourselves, we'll be the last ones to know that we have a problem in that area. And you may have had a problem, or you may know somebody that's struggling to the point where they no longer have the control to stop that, and they need help. I know nurses that are not sleeping. They are really chronically short on sleep, and we know that that is not healthy. That will really wear our bodies down, and it'll affect our cognitive status as well. So maybe in that person's toolkit, they need to find a way to sleep in a healthy way, not a pint of whiskey or a couple, 3 beers, right? Or abusing a sleep medication or a benzodiazepine. They need to get some help, and maybe just managing their stress through some of these things we've talked about today. Maybe that can be helpful. But I want you to think broadly about the tools in your toolkit, because as you can see, it can even include a hotline, seeing a therapist, seeing a medical doctor, right? Maybe you need to have some of your labs checked. Getting involved with the ANA Wellbeing Initiative, Healthy Nurse, Healthy Nation, so that we can get a handle on our diet and those kinds of things. I've known nurses, and I have to say I've been guilty of this in my career as well, that we might go an entire shift and we have not used the bathroom and we've only had sips of a drink. Yeah, that is not healthy. Okay, and it is true that we have things to get done. We've got to take care of ourselves. And as I said, the world needs us to be at our best. So now we're at the point we want to look at all, or think back to all the tools we've talked about today, from the cognitive work, the reframing, the grounding, which is also part of the body work, the visual imagery, using our thoughts to recreate and de-stress, and the actual body work, the relaxation breathing, the tense, relax muscle technique, developing situational awareness, all those things. Plus what we've just talked about with ANA and Healthy Nurse, Healthy Nation, getting a handle on all those areas that nurses don't often do well with. Diet, activity level, sleep, all those things. So now that we've thought about that, I would like you, in these closing moments, I want you to jot some things down that you believe could be helpful to you. And I want you to think about, can I make a commitment in any way to at least one thing that going forward I can think of that might be helpful for me, and then be open to learning and exploring and talk about it with other nurses. We are all in this together. It is an extraordinarily stressful time. So I'm going to give you just a little bit of time. I'm going to pause myself and let you jot some things down. Okay, now that you've had a few moments to do that, I do want to say thank you. Thank you for coming to our workshop today online. I wish you the very best, and I appreciate, as a fellow nurse, your service to the nursing profession and really to the world. I can't reach out and talk to you directly, but hopefully you are feeling some level of appreciation for what we mutually do, what we accomplish, and what we contribute. And I hope you are growing personally and professionally, and that today helps you with that. Remember, this is Ottawa University, and we are here to help you with your career, to move it further. We have the RN to BSN Accelerated all online. And we have the Master of Science in Nursing, the Nurse Educator track, or the Nurse Leader track. And you can reach us at the Ottawa website, ottawa.edu. And thank you for attending. And now, I want to go to slide 13 and 14. If you look at slide 13, these are your instructions to complete your post-test. And this is how you will get your, as I said, your CNEs, the 2.5 CNEs, is by going to the survey link on slide 13 and slide 14. Slide 13 is your post-test instructions, and slide 14 is your evaluation instructions, and you need to complete both. It will ask for your email. You need to enter that, and that's how you will get your CNE certificate, is via email. So let us go down to slide 13 on that hyperlink, highlight it, right-click, and it says Open Hyperlink. And it says, Dear CNE participants, please complete the following post-test and submit, then proceed to the next slide within the PowerPoint presentation for instructions to complete the evaluation survey for the stress, distress, or de-stress CNE. And that, both those links are within Survey Planet, 2 separate links. Upon submission of both the post-test and the evaluation survey, with your participant email included, which you would have to in order to complete it, the CNE certificate will be emailed to you. Thank you for participating, Ottawa University Nursing. So there's a place there for your email. And if you will click on that or put your email in and then click on Begin, you will go to the first question. The same thing with slide 14. You highlight it, you right-click it, you click on Open Hyperlink, and you'll see a similar screen that will ask you to put your email in. Once you put your email into that, your email address, then you click on Begin, and you will be able to proceed. When I receive those from you, then I will be emailing your CNE certificate for 2.5 CNEs. Again, thank you for attending this workshop.